Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of the daily news analysis by SRIRAM'S IAS, where we take up the important articles from the Hindu newspaper and break them down for our understanding from the examination point of view. So let's start today's discussion by taking up the important articles featuring in the newspaper. So let's take up the first article for our discussion. The first article which appears in the newspaper reads, Indian team deliberating on Ocean Diversity Pact. Now, this is a article appearing in the context of an Indian delegation gone on behalf of the UN on the UN platform to deliberate on an Ocean Diversity Pact. So this is a one of a kind conference that is happening where the Indian delegation has gone. So in that aspect, we will try to understand what exactly have they gone for, and what is this Ocean Diversity Pact and what is the need for it. So what is the context? A delegation from India and other member countries of the UN are in New York to deliberate a one of its kind agreement to conserve marine biodiversity in the high seas, namely the oceans that extend beyond boundaries or beyond countries' territorial waters. So as we can now see, this agreement is going to be for the high seas waters. Now what are high seas? So when we talk about a country, let's say over here, let's say this is a country, and then there are, let's say all of this is ocean around the country. So whenever we talk about the territory of a country or the boundary of a country, whatever land belongs to that country, we know that that is a territory of the country. But what about the water boundary? So there is a concept under the international laws which is known as the UN clause or United Nations Conventions on Law of the Seas. This is that international law or agreement which determines all the international provisions with respect to the international waters. So with respect to the country, there are 3 zones. So 12 nautical miles around this country is taken to be the territorial waters of the country itself, which means that the land as well as this 12 nautical miles, it is a different, it's a measure of distance in the sea. So 12 nautical miles becomes the boundary of the country itself. And then we have the bigger boundary of another 12 nautical miles, which makes the contiguous zone, and a larger boundary of exclusive economic zone. This goes up to 200 nautical mile. So up to 200 nautical mile, a country has the control over the waters around its boundaries. But what about beyond the 200 nautical miles for every country? This is what the area is known as the high seas, or that part of the ocean which does not belong to anyone or which does not form as a boundary to any country, and therefore this part of the ocean belongs to everyone. And this pact about how to use these high seas, whatever resources are situated in these parts of the oceans which do not belong to everyone, how to regulate them. On this context, this pact would be formed. So it is pertaining to the high seas. I hope this concept of high seas is clear as to this is that part of the ocean waters of the planet which do not belong to anyone and which do not form a boundary for any of the country's coastal waters. And these high seas comprise nearly 45% of the of the Earth's surface. So the Indian delegation which is gone, who all are representing in there? So it comprises officials from the Ministry of Earth Sciences, Center for Marine Fisheries and Research Institute, and the Ministry of External Affairs. So bodies from these 3 bodies have gone there. And a key aspect of the agreement is deciding on the rights of companies that undertake exploration for biological resources in the high seas. This is what is going to be the key aspect for their deliberation, as to for those boundary waters which do not belong to any country, how to regulate their resources, because there are a lot of precious resources in these waters, marine resources. So how to extract these resources in a sustainable manner so that no one country gets a monopoly over it and every country can get an equal opportunity to utilize these resources. That is going to be the aim of this pact. So typically what used to happen is that the focus of mining activity in the sea has been for gas hydrates, precious metals and other fossil fuel resources. These used to be the prime sources to go to or to mine for in the ocean waters. But what has happened is that with advances in biotechnology and genetic engineering, several companies see potential in exotic microbes. So apart from these conventional important resources such as gas hydrates, metals or fossil fuels, certain unique microbes also have become very important from the point of view of genetic engineering and other advanced technology stuff. So these exotic microbes have and other organisms have also become important, and therefore the ambit of mining and extraction of resources from these high seas or oceans have just expanded, and therefore regulating on them has become very important. So this currently the deliberation is going on, and as and when the pact is signed, we'll get to understand what are the specific provisions of this agreement. In this aspect, the article also mentioned about the blue economy policy of India. Now, what is the blue economy policy of India? In June last year, in the budget session, the finance minister unveiled the blue economy policy. What do we mean by blue economy? So, blue economy is that aspect of the economy which deals with the coastal or the oceanic resources extraction and usage of the oceanic and marine resources. So the blue economy policy was unveiled because it consists of economic activities dependent on marine resources, which comprises 4.1% of India's economy. So it already takes up a lot of space in India's economy, and to enhance this figure and to contribute more to India's GDP, this blue economy policy was introduced last year. So what does it say? This highlighted the blue economy as one of the 10 core dimensions for national growth. Indian government is very keen. Earlier we had seen an article on the seaweed farming, which was to introduce the coastal communities to farming of the seaweed and cultivation of seaweed. Similar, this will fall under the blue economy policy only. All the activities which are centered around extraction and usage of marine resources will form a part of the blue economy policy. So it emphasizes policies across several key sectors to achieve holistic growth of India's economy, and it recognizes the following 7 thematic areas. So what are the broad areas under which this blue economy policy legislates upon or sets its standard and makes provision for? So first is National Accounting Framework for the Blue Economy and Ocean Governance. So the accounting framework and the governance of this governance of the ocean, how would that happen? That would come under the blue economy first of all. Then the coastal marine spatial planning and tourism activities. So planning of these coastal areas and the tourism activities and the planning centered around them, that will also form the blue economy policies area. Then marine fisheries, aquaculture and fish processing. These activities related to fisheries will also form the part of the blue economy policy. Then manufacturing, emerging industries, trade, technology, services and skill development around all these marine resources and the industries centered around it will also be a part of this policy. Then logistics, infrastructure and shipping, including transshipments. Whenever we talk about the coastal waters, the ports become a part of it. Whenever ports become a part of it, so logistics and infrastructure around the coastal areas also become an important part. So that will also form a part of the blue economic policy. And then coastal and deep sea mining and offshore energy. What do you mean by offshore energy? Those energy extraction mechanisms which are placed offshore or not, they are not placed on the coast or the land boundaries of the territory of the country, but they are placed on the ocean waters. That is, they are off the shore. That is the offshore energy resources. So even projects which are offshore energy projects will form under the part of the blue economy policy. Then lastly, security and strategic dimensions and international engagements. So apart from the economic aspects, even the security and strategic dimensions centered around the coastal waters will also form a part of the blue economy policy. So these are the broader areas which the blue economy policy legislates upon and sets certain provisions to deliberate on these areas. So this was the discussion with respect to this article, wherein Ocean Diversity Pact is being deliberated, wherein it would be decided how the resources of the high seas would be utilized upon. So as this pact gets materialized and it gets signed by different countries, we'll also take a look at what are the different provisions that come out. With this, let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads, Amethi unit all set to make AK-203 rifles. Now this is a news which becomes important because this rifle belongs to the country of Russia, and this is being made in Amethi, Uttar Pradesh under the joint ventureship of Indian company as well as a Russian company, and the deal was done in February 19 itself of manufacturing these rifles, but due to the Russia-Ukraine war, the deal was being delayed and it was not being executed on time. But finally, the AK-203 rifles are going to be manufactured in the Amethi unit. So with this becomes important for us from the point of view of GS2, where we have the international relations part. So agreements between two countries, India and other countries, become important, and also GS3, where we have pointers of internal security and the aspects of securing the boundaries of India and defense economy also in the parts of GS3. So with this, let's take a look at what is this deal about manufacturing these AK-203 rifles and what is the significance of these rifles. So this Amethi unit is all set to make the AK-203 assault rifles as per the deal with Russia. And what was the deal? Over 6.1 lakh AK-203 assault rifles costing over rupees 5,000 crore will be manufactured by a joint venture that is known as the Indo-Russian Rifles Private Limited, or RRPL, at Korwa, Amethi in Uttar Pradesh. So this joint venture is basically, whenever we say a joint venture, it is coming together of two companies. So one from the side of India, that is the Ordnance Factories Board from India, and the Rosenborn Exports and Concern Kalashnikov on the Russian side. So this is that company which manufactures Kalashnikovs, or this AK-203 is a type of a Kalashnikov rifle, or what we used to commonly call AK-47. So that company from the Russian side will be coming into and forming this joint venture which will be manufacturing it in the Indian land of Amethi, Uttar Pradesh. So why these AK-203 assault rifles? What is going to be the significance of them? This rifle is considered to be the latest and most advanced version of the AK-47 rifle. So this is the advanced version going into the series of assault rifles which Russia manufactures. Then this variant is expected to replace the Indian small arms system, or what we call the INSAS rifle. INSAS assault rifle used to be used by the Indian Army and other forces. This AK-203 rifle will replace these rifles because that are presently being used by Army, Navy and Air Force besides other security forces, because these rifles are not suitable for use at high altitude. So we know that a lot of usage is being seen at the high altitude, where now the India-China standoff is happening at the Ladakh region. So that is a high altitude region. So we need equipment which is compliant at that particular stage as well. So therefore these new rifles are being inducted. Then what are the strengths and advantages of this AK-203 rifles? So these are popular because of the robust mechanics and simplicity of operation that these rifles have been tested under the conditions of extreme heat and cold. So they are useful in extreme heat as well as in extreme cold. And this is the advanced version of AK-47 that we saw. And its magazine can hold up to 30 bullets. And unlike the INSAS rifles, these rifles never get jammed, as these belong to the AK series or the Kalashnikov series. These rifles are a type of the Kalashnikov rifles which can work under extreme climatic conditions and are effective even in sand, soil and water. So as we can see, these give improved performance with respect to the assault rifle usage and can be seen to be working in extreme conditions. These also offer high degree of versatility, adjustability and customizability. Therefore, the rifle which can fire 600 bullets in 1 minute, means 10 bullets in a second, can be used in automatic and semi-automatic modes. So these are the features of the AK-203 rifles which can be asked in the prelims examination with respect to the Indo-Russian cooperation with respect to the defense sector. So this was a discussion of this article. With this, let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads, "Mishap at the Meghalaya coal mine leaves one dead, another hurt." Now this news article pertains to the menace of illegal rat hole mining. As we can see in this picture, these are rat hole mines or mines which are constructed in long pits which are not really sustainable or suitable for human lives to operate on. But these are illegally operated, especially in the state of Meghalaya, where these rat hole mines are very prevalent. And these rat hole mines have become a cause for extreme worry, because time and again various news come up of death of laborers or workers of these mines or news come with respect to collapsing of these rat hole mines themselves. So from this article, what becomes important from the examination perspective is for us to know about the concept of rat hole mining, because the Supreme Court has also banned this type of mining, but the in the Meghalaya state, illegal rat hole mining is still taking place. So in this context, let's take a look at the concept of rat hole mining. So what is rat hole mining? It involves digging of very small tunnels, usually only 3 to 4 feet high, which workers of them who are often children enter and extract coal. So how do they look? This is how they look. Some are vertical mines wherein a pit would be dug and it would be going deep, and through ladders they would be accessed, and then horizontal extraction of the coal will be taking place. So this is the concept, and this is how small the pits are through which small people, most often children, enter into, and that is why these mines become very hazardous, because they get collapsed at any time or water is filled in them, which is why lives are lost, and due to other reasons also deaths happen, and the mines themselves also get collapsed at a lot of times. So the NGT therefore, or the National Green Tribunal, banned it in 2014 on grounds of it being unscientific and unsafe for workers. But the state of Meghalaya government has challenged the NGT ban in the Supreme Court. Why? Because this type of rat hole mining in Meghalaya is very common, and coal is extracted due to this practice of rat hole mining. So according to the available government data, Meghalaya has a total coal reserve of 640 million tons, most of which is mined in the unscientific way by individuals and communities. Since the coal seam is extremely thin in Meghalaya, which means that how we can extract coal from the mountains or the land is very thin. So therefore, such kind of rat hole mines are workable in the state of Meghalaya. No other method would be economically viable, and therefore removal of rocks from the hilly terrain and putting up pillars inside the mine to prevent collapse would be the costlier avenue to take. Therefore, in Meghalaya, this is the locally developed technique and the most commonly used one. That is why it is still prevalent in Meghalaya. The government does not have a policy in place to regulate mining, and the new mining policy drafted in 2012 has not yet been implemented. Moreover, the NGT found the 2012 policy inadequate, as it does not address the concept of rat hole mining. So this is the juncture at which we see the tussle between the National Green Tribunal, which has identified this practice as an unscientific practice, but the Meghalayan government thinks that this is the only economical viable method of extracting coal from the unique topography of the state, and that is why this practice still continues. But what is the impact of this rat hole mining? As we can see from the article itself as to how lives are lost, but there are other impacts as well, which is the water resources of many rivers, especially in the Jaintia Hills district, have turned acidic. Due to the mining activities which are unscientific and unsustainable, it has impacted the acidification of the rivers as well. Then the water also has high concentration of sulfates, iron and toxic heavy metals, low dissolved oxygen and high biological oxygen demand, showing its degraded quality. So the unsustainable mining also results into the degradation of water quality in the region. And the roadside dumping of coal is a major source of air, water and soil pollution. And the off-road movement of trucks and other vehicles in the area for coal transportation also adds to the ecological and environmental damage of the area. And the practice has been declared as unsafe for workers by the NGT, as we saw. And these mines branch into networks of horizontal channels which are at constant risk of carving in or flooding. So this is what is keeps on happening with these mines, which either it gets flooded, and due to that many of the lives of the workers are lost, and this is what keeps coming in the news with respect to this rat hole mining. So this was a discussion with respect to the rat hole mining. We stop here with respect to the important articles from today, and we'll meet again on Monday from the important articles from the newspaper. Thank you.